Good evening. My name is Rosalyn Williams. I'm with Righteous Writers Consultant, which consists of my tax business, notary, grant writing, and everything. But on tonight, I'm going to be teaching you guys about the FinCEN beneficial ownership form, which is now going to be a form that's required to be done and completed by December 31st, 11:59 p.m. Because January 1, 2025 at 12:01, you will get a fine of $595 daily until this form is completed. So I want you all to think about that. What is the beneficial ownership form? It's simply a form that states protects your business directly, indirectly, your shareholders, your legacy, everything. It just all your stakeholders. So if your business is set up to be in the line for your children, everybody is protected by that. Why are we having to do this now? Well, back in 2021, the Corporate Transparency Act was created to eliminate money laundering, the big bad players, the big bad wolves that we know from creating foreign accounts, shell accounts, and all of that. And they're still getting richer. Like I said, the rich get richer, the poor get poorer. We work harder and smarter, but yet they're trying to take our legacy in our businesses because we are small ownerships. So the IRS and the federal government and all players involved are now trying to make it equal for everybody, fair game, fair without being illegal. Accessing this information can only be accessed by governmental entities. So banks can do it, CIS, CIA, Treasury, law enforcement, and it is not. Let me say this very highly and it is not foiable. So nobody can reach out to any entity that has your information and say, I want to FOIA what her information looks like. It's not foiable. It's only used for security mechanisms. How does this affect you? As a business owner, you will be required to do this form just once, only once. So between now and December 31st, you only have to do it once. That's especially if your business was filed prior to 2024. If your business was filed during 2024, they are allowing grace. However, going forward, it's usually 90 days from the creation of your business that this form has to be done. Now, if for some reason you change your board of directors, your CEOs, or you change your benefactors, you will have to go back and recreate this form. And it won't be a new form, it will just be considered a modification. And you have to do that 30 days from the date of that change. So, say that Audra is on my seat, she's the CEO of my corporation, and she says, I'm retiring, I'm stepping down. And then I put Cynthia in that place. I now have to create this form again 30 days from that effective date so that Cynthia is now reflected and not Audra. So again, it's safeguarding you, your company, and all the players involved. Again, it's only a one-time form, which is great. What business needs to file this form? So there are some exceptions. Most financial entities do not have to do this. Some of the nonprofits don't have to do this. When I say some of the nonprofits don't have to do it, those will be considered churches, schools, like VFOs and stuff like that. So you think about it that way. But if you have a nonprofit, 99% of the time you're going to have to do it. Sole proprietors don't have to do it. However, when we look at this next form, we're going to ask you some questions. And if you say yes to any of those questions, you should file that form. And then if you have any doubt, you should file that form. I look at it like this: if you're getting financial services and submitting your stuff as grants and you're sole proprietor, you want to do this form. Um, let's look at the next slide. We're going to ask some questions. Under what law was your company created? For most of us, it's the US laws. So, is the company a corporation? Most of us would say no. So, we would go down to the next box. Is the company a limited liability corporation? Now, think about how you filed your forms. If you did an LLC, you are required to report. If you say no, was the company created by a filing of a document with Secretary of State or any other office under the state or law or tribal information? Most of us have submitted articles of incorporation to the state of Michigan. So that is a yes. So may be a domestic reporting company. Yes, you are. That's how you want to look at that. If you answer yes to one of those questions, follow the chart. Things to have when you're completing this form: information about every part of your business, your EIN number. If you have a board of directors, you want to have all of their information and their identification. When I say identification, it could be their passport, it can be their driver's license, it can be their birth certificate. I only say use the birth certificate if there's a minor stakeholder. So if your child is a stakeholder in your business, then use that for them. There should be no hysterical data whatsoever. So, like Audra was my CEO yesterday, but today Cynthia is. I'm filing my form today. Who's my CEO? That will be Cynthia. We will not look at anything from the date. Whatever day you file that form is how it should be lined up with your business and your business entity. Again, acceptable documents are birth certificate for minor children who are stakeholders, driver's license, and passports, to name a few. Do I need a FinCEN? I will say the FinCEN, and I went ahead and applied for one today. It literally took me about 5 minutes to do it. All I needed to do was put in my basic information, my driver's license, and my EIN number. It automatically generated me a number. It's a 12-digit number. So when I went over to the BOI form, instead of me having to put all my information in over again, there is a box, and I will show you all that says FinCEN number. I put that FinCEN number in, it generated everything. I was on to the next screen. So that FinCEN number will eliminate a lot of the hassle of having to recreate stuff over and over and over. But you don't necessarily need it. It's something to look at going forward. Again, it's another level of security for you and your information and your business and your personal, for sure. This is actually what the form looks like on the web. I'm going to encourage everybody to do it on the internet. Do not print the form and try to fill it out, because there are checks and balances when doing this, that if you make a mistake, it will check you, or if you miss something, it will check you, versus if you're doing it by hand. So the initial filing is always going to be what you're going to do. All you're going to do is do the initial report. Now, if you make a mistake, then you will correct the report. If you are changing your leadership then you will update the report. The only time you will do a new entity is if you have another business with a different EIN number. And I'm going to segue right there for a minute. If you have multiple businesses with multiple EIN numbers, you need to do one of these for each business, not just one. So, like for me, Righteous Writers LLC is my business. Under my business, and I could have been exempt because I do taxes. However, because I do grant writing, because I do book production and other things, I am not exempt. So, now, I do have another business, my catering business. It does not operate under this EIN number. It has its own EIN number. So I have to do two forms. Now, if you have a grant writing business, but you're also doing publishing, again, it's straight across the board. You don't, if it's operating under that same EIN. Only when you have to do multiples of these is if you have more than one tax ID number. And look at how you presented your articles, and how, because some question was, well, I do 3D art. Okay, that's your business. But I also create cups, and that's still under that entity. So when you're doing this, think about everything that you do under that entity. Now, if you find that it's not lining up with how it shows up, then you might need to apply for a different EIN for that part that's not lining up under your basic business. Does that make sense? Okay. Going forward, this is the second form. This is where you start putting your basic information in, from the company's legal name, which would for me would be Righteous Writers LLC. My EIN number, which is the tax ID. What you see, these yellow boxes are drop downs. So it makes it easy. If you're going to put an EIN number, if you're going to put a social security number in, you choose the drop down. And based upon that is how you would go to box 8. Now, it does show 2 different jurisdictions. You only want to use the U.S. information. So if it's grayed out, it is not pertaining to you. Your current address. Now, I tell people at this slide, be mindful. Your current address, for me, I'm a home-based business. So that will be my information there. But that's also my home. Okay. We're going to go to the next slide, which is where the difference starts. Here again, you see that line that says FinCEN number. Now, that's that security number that I created. So if I was to put that 12-digit number there, everything else will go out because they already have my information. Okay. But also in this, you can again where it says current address, depending on where you are. Some people have brick and mortar. Cynthia has a brick and mortar. So here she would put her business address. I don't have a brick and mortar. So this again for me, when I move into my brick and mortar next year, I will have to modify this form because I'm going to use my brick and mortar as my mailing address versus my home address because you don't want the IRS knocking at your door. Your kids laying in the bed sleeping, they come out, we finna arrest you for fraud. You finna like, oh, you don't want it at your business. But I tell people the lesser of the two evils. You don't want your family involved if the IRS shows up at your home. So your business information will go there. And again, it's the yellow boxes that are pertaining to us that you will use. Form of identification down here, again, driver's license is probably the simplest. To do it, I tell people take a picture of your driver's license ahead of time because you are going to have to upload it. You don't see it down there, but it'll be a box that says add identification. So it could be your driver's license, it could be your passport, whatever you choose. Now, the next slide is where it gets to be for those people who have boards, who have chairs, who have CEOs and all of that. And me and this mouse are not working. So this, oh, sorry. My slide is out of order, y'all. Did we? Oh, okay. Yeah, we did do the company information, right? Yep. Okay, my bad. So we are right. So this slide continuing. So again, after I've put my information in as president, then I would add information for my CEO, my board of directors, everybody that has a role in there that's beneficial stakeholders. So you may have to do this multiple times, this one sheet. And at the top, it does say add. So you keep adding, you keep adding, and you keep adding until everyone is there. Now, if you don't have a board or if you don't have a CEO, then once you get to this page, you upload you hit submit. So again, it's how your individual business is set up. Most of us are sole proprietors, or LLCs. Yeah, I'm sorry, my list is coming out. And so we would stop here, and then after we upload the driver's license or whatever form of ID that you've chosen, we move on. This is what you will see: filing successful. It gives you your number, it says the submission, the date and time it's done, and it shows your information, who submitted it. You're done. It's very so, but again, the information that you need to know, your home address is where the basics start. That very first slide after we did the initial is where you receive your mail. After that, I tell people you choose your battle. Where do you want your mail from the IRS and everything to go? Consistency is going to be key. Whatever you choose to do on page 3 should be match page 4 before you submit. So everything should be aligned all across the board. Name, EIN, address, then your board. If you all work through Transformation Gems and you are CEOs and you all have roles, all of that should be reflected. My example is I'm a currently home-based business and I use that. And so I use my address throughout my home address. But come January 1, I will have to revise my form because I'm moving to Holmes Road. So I will have an office. So that it will probably be the only time that I will have to modify. And I tell people it's okay. Right now we're all at the single status of being, but we know we're gonna have to modify this when we become conglomerates, when we become big businesses, when we have our boards of directors, and when we just start partnering with other people that we say, hey, I want you to sit on my board of directors. So we know at some point we're starting small, but we're bigger than most. We're bigger than life. So we will have to modify this form maybe once, twice, or 3 times in our life of our business. But don't just think that it's overwhelming. This form is not hard at all. I'm going to provide some resources to you. There's a link for frequently asked questions. I have the exemption list of businesses, but like I said, the only business that are really exempt are most financial services, even with the nonprofits, churches, schools, um, like VFWs. But if you have a nonprofit, if it don't fall in those realms, you have to do it for your nonprofit too. There's also a video out there that they provided. I provided the link. It was okay. I just said, it's not us getting to the heart of it, making it understand, but it's there for you to use. This is actually the link to the form. If you copy it from the PowerPoint and upload it into your search and paste button, it goes right to the first page of the form and you just move forward from there. After that, if you're still having issues and questions, I'm your girl. Call me. There's my email address. There's my phone number. Most of you have my information anyway from being part of Transformation Gems. So I'm available. I mean, even if we need to come back in and do another one of these, even if we need to come back, that's fine. But I want you all to know, don't overthink it. Don't overthink